So we're going to have the conversation this morning with someone who is well known, especially in the crime fighting business here in Trinidad and Tobago, having held positions of Commissioner of Police, Minister of National Security, being a member of the TTPS. And, we're just going to have that conversation this morning. Good morning, Mr. Griffith, and welcome.
Hi, good morning. Always my pleasure. Good morning to you and to your many viewers.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning. So we are aware of the situation, very, very unfortunate situation happening in Trinidad and Tobago last week, where the Commissioner of Police was arrested, detained and questioned, and of course later released due to lack of whether it is evidence or no complainants as the situation. And I know that you have an opinion where this is concerned. But before we get into the opinion, I'd just like to go through the paces, as it were, as to what transpired that led to the arrest, which is what we're actually still trying to determine right now. We know that sniper rifles were procured in October of 2023. We know that the SSA at that time did not have the right to bear those types of to wear those types of weapons. And then we know, I think it's in November, I think, of that year, they were allowed permission to so do. So I'm trying to find out what the confusion is there that led to any type of investigation having to be conducted to the point where the top cop, the most senior official, was arrested and detained for questioning where this is concerned. So from your expert position, walk us through this.
Well, you don't need to be an expert to understand that the ball was dropped tremendously. And I think it's more so by the legal department of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. I recall, when I took over the police service, in many cases, they would be collapsing because we were going against seasoned defense attorneys for persons who were charged compared to virtually first-degree law students who were police officers and believed that they were attorneys, and even they weren't even showing up for duty to a court. And it took me 2 years to put an 83 to 91% reduction in absenteeism of police at court. So it showed out what a mess it was. We brought in civilian attorneys, and that transformed the whole thing. And that's where criminals started realizing, if I get apprehended, then I know there's a possibility that I will go all the way through the justice system and not find the window of opportunity. And the reason I'm stating all of this is that they've removed the civilians and gone back with the police officers as attorneys. And they're just not qualified. They're not experienced. Listening to one of them in that press conference, they like to try to speak like an Anand Ramlogan or a Ramesh Maharaj, and you just don't have the capability. So in this situation, what it was, unless it is that there's something else that the public does not know, right? Because remember, this is still being investigated. Is it that there was bribery? Is it that the weapons were illegal? If it is that, as we know right now, it means that the legal department of the police service did not understand the law. Yes, the SSA, they got the approval to purchase firearms after in 2023, but that is for prohibited weapons. A sniper rifle is not a prohibited weapon. So it means that these attorneys, yet again, police officers who don't even know how to hold a gun, they probably never went on a range in years trying to be attorneys. They may have misinterpreted the fact that a sniper rifle was a prohibited weapon. And if it is a prohibited weapon, then no civilian or the SSA, because the SSA is a civilian organization, basically. All of the employees are civilians. So it's basically civilian, organized and run for national security. It is not a law enforcement agency. Only the law enforcement agencies can acquire prohibited weapons. A sniper rifle is not a prohibited weapon. So if Roger Best has his FUL and he decides to purchase weapons under his FUL for a sniper rifle, that is not illegal. It could be a little untidy. I would, if I was commissioner, I wouldn't have done it because it seems that the SSA were purchasing the weapons on behalf of the defense force for the use of the defense force. It is an administrative hiccup that could take place. I could understand the justification why they were doing it. Probably under confidentiality, it would be easier to bring it through the SSA than the defense force, because anything that comes from the defense force and the police, everybody knows about it. But it was not a criminal offense. And thankfully, we have a DPP, and the DPP would have understood the law in contrast to the police legal department. So that is the situation. A sniper rifle is not a prohibited weapon. A prohibited weapon is an automatic weapon. A sniper rifle is not an automatic weapon, which means, as ridiculous as it sounds, 10,000 civilians could get a sniper rifle tomorrow if they want, because that is what the law has. It gives the commissioner the authority to give sniper rifles to civilians. Because you call it sniper rifles, but there are hundreds of persons who go on Tucker Valley every Saturday and they fire from 400 meters with weapons that are designed for competition. And those weapons can also be deemed sniper rifles.
Mr. Griffith, putting that there now is cause for concern, or well, at least for me, saying that 10,000 civilians can have sniper rifles. That, of course, is of course alarming. But based on the information we have and what you just mentioned, is it safe to say that there isn't any grounds really for an investigation for this matter, especially if you are saying that sniper rifles are not illegal or prohibited weapons? There's no grounds then for any...
Yes, if it is that this is based on the sniper rifles being acquired, it means that there's absolutely no grounds at all. But you see, suppose there's something else. Suppose there was bribery that took place. Suppose it is that documents were signed in the wrong place. We don't know, and that is misbehavior in office. I'll give you a perfect example quickly here. When I was commissioner, there was a deliberate attempt by police officers to try to have me removed because I was putting a stop to $100 million per annum in overtime corruption, police officers using vehicles to escort criminal elements, officers, blackmailing persons for firearms. So they put 80 police officers, 500,000 police hours that could have been used to protect citizens. See what you could find to bust Gary truth. And there was nothing to find because it was all a lie. And one of it involved, for commissioner, there are several documents you have to sign with customs for firearms. And on one of the dozens of places I had to sign, they said, that authorized officer is supposed to be a customs officer. Let's charge him for misbehavior in office. That is how desperate the police could be when you want to bring down someone. And the only thing that stopped it is because 4 commissioners before me and 2 commissioners after me, they were signing in the same spot. So it was an administrative error on behalf of the TTPS having the commissioner sign in one of the 12 places in the wrong spot, because that was supposed to be for a customs officer. Those things are administrative glitches, but there's some law that we have known as misbehavior in office, which is an excuse, which is sometimes could be used in such a way, as an abusive manner, to arrest persons. So we don't know. But if it pertains to the sniper rifles as it is, a sniper rifle is not a prohibited weapon. And as I said, when you have alarm, because the sniper rifle is not automatic, it's not an automatic weapon. So there are weapons that are more deadly than a sniper rifle that is given out, because it's something that can actually rip through a bulletproof vest and it can be issued to civilians. So sometimes we get this impression, we hear the word sniper rifle and we feel, oh my God, this is a terrible thing. But the thing is, the Defense Force must have that. That is their right. If the SSA they would acquire it on behalf of the Defense Force, and the FUL was given through Roger Best, who has his own FUL, that is not a criminal offense. And if it's based on sniper rifles, somebody dropped the ball and has caused major embarrassment to the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service.
Talking about major embarrassment to the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, the cop now being released due to lack of evidence, no complainants, and not being allowed to take back up her position. In fact, being released of duties with 3.5 more months on her contract. Where does that leave us in Trinidad and Tobago? She was relieved of her duties, no charges were laid. Is that how are we supposed to interpret that, and how do we maintain trust in the services?
Well, I plead with the country, understand, just 3 years ago, you're asking about trust in the service. This was the same 7,000 police officers where public trust and confidence was 59%. This was the same police service where it ensured it had crime as the number 4 concern behind health, education, and the economy. The Commissioner of Police had a 79% support. It was the highest reduction in violent crime in 17 years. These are the same police officers. So let's not knock the 7,000 police officers out there. They are doing their job. I ask the country, continue to support them, continue to believe in them, and to the 7,000 odd police officers on the ground. Yes, you're not seniors because they love to wear gabardine, stay on the 6th floor in air condition. They don't understand leadership by example. You continue to do what is required. You're not working on behalf of your seniors. You're working on behalf of your God, your country, and the citizens of this great country. So let us make sure, put it into perspective. The citizens and the police officers, let us not get deflected and understand our role and function as citizens, law-abiding citizens, and as police officers. As it pertains to the system now with the police service, it shows the importance of us changing this. For far too long, we are putting square pegs in round holes and then trying to attack. We have demonized Ulla Christopher for far too long, and it is not her fault. She just never had it. She was never capable. And the reason I'm stating that is that up until 2018, the selection for the Commissioner of Police, the substantive rank was that of international qualified experts doing proper assessments to verify if this person has what it takes to be a Commissioner of Police. That is why Dwayne Gibbs beat every single local for the police service. That is why Gary Griffith got 82% and beat every single one of the 60 others who applied for Commissioner of Police. Ula Christopher didn't even come in the top 20. When you change that to civilians in Trinidad and Tobago with no qualification, knowledge, experience in national security, in law enforcement, known as the Police Service Commission, you had a retired judge, a speaking consultant, and an accountant selected who must be our commissioner. Only in a banana republic we can do that. So the Maxine King, the Maxine Tongs, the Judith Jones, persons as equivalent to yourself, who might be very qualified in media, persons qualified in everything else. You're not qualified, and you handpick a lady who couldn't come in the top 20. That is the situation the country is under. We cannot have civilians without qualification in law enforcement select commissioners of police. We need to revert to international experts such as Penn State, such as the UK expert who came and selected 20-odd commissioners around the world. If not, we are going to continue to get Jacobs and Ula Christophers and Benjamins. Additionally, we also have to look at the acting commissioner of police appointment. That is based on seniority. So that's why you have now an individual who just 2 days ago went on a pulpit and started preaching and telling civilians, you need not to be scared, you need to be strong, but you say that we're in a bulletproof vest. And I mean, when you listen to that last 2 minutes interview, the commissioner of police is a position that it requires a degree of leadership, understanding your role and function. And if it is we continue with locals selecting a commissioner of police, we will continue to get the square pegs and round holes.
Okay, Captain Griffith, I know you have a lot to say about the TTPS, but I just want to shift our focus a bit to the SSA. Now, I know you said that the SSA is a civilian organization, and as such, the TTPS would have had to purchase the rifles on behalf of the SSA. Since the SSA is a civilian organization, can you state to us what purpose would they have for these 2 sniper rifles?
Yeah, sure. Now, even though I say a civilian organization, civilian focused, but they are heavily involved in national security. They're involved as a support element for law enforcement. So the SSA, I listed this guy, P.S. Robinson, clueless as he was trying to say that the SSA is not a civilian organization. They basically are, all of the persons employed are civilians. However, they are heavily involved in national security and support law enforcement. So the SSA is not similar to the CIA. The CIA has law enforcement capabilities, powers of arrest, and so forth. We don't. Our SSA is not like that. However, because they work and complement our protective services, only the Defense Force and the police service have the capability to acquire prohibited weapons. But what Roger Best did, because he understood the law well, he and I actually joined the Army the exact day the both of us became officers as second lieutenants, then captains, and the Chief of Defense Staff, who joined the same day with us as well, that's Air Marshal Darrell Daniel. Sometimes bringing in items like this, you need a degree of confidentiality. It's very sensitive. You don't want each and every person to know about it. There are 3 ways. I mean, you have television, you have telephone, and you have law enforcement officer. Those are the 3 ways to get the whole country to know something that is happening. The Defense Force purchasing that directly, or the police purchasing it directly, the whole country would have known. It is what I have been told and advised is that the SSA were trying to acquire it without it being known to the public. And then obviously somebody decided to spread the misinformation to the politicians and say, look, Roger Best bringing in a sniper rifle, and he's the SSA. The SSA is a civilian organization. Bust his throat because he wants his job. It's the same thing. McDonald Jacob was thrown out because somebody wanted his job. Ula Christopher is thrown out, somebody wanted her job. That's what the police has turned to now, trying to see how you could lick up the other person to get their job. So in the SSA situation, what they did, as I said, I would not have done it as commissioner. I would have advised, listen, this is going to be untidy, but it is not illegal. It is not unethical. It is an administrative hiccup for one organization purchasing a weapon and then transferring it to another organization. But as I said, Roger Best has a FUL because the SSA actually would have an armory. People are not aware of it. The SSA probably has more weapons than the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force, because all of the weapons they had from the Special Anti-Crime Unit is secured and housed by guess who? The SSA in Kamuto Barracks. So are you going to say that the SSA, they're breaking the law with those weapons? So all that the SSA were trying to do was to acquire the weapons in a secret manner to give it to the Defense Force, because that is required. People have a concern, and let me tell you the stupidity, by the way. Let me quickly add, this nonsense about the weapons were being brought in to assassinate persons. If any law enforcement official wanted to plan to kill people, you're not going to bring in a weapon officially, legally, through customs, because when you do that, you must do ballistic testing. Doing ballistic testing of every single registered weapon means that if that weapon is used in a murder, you are going to be able to use the ballistic testing to pinpoint it to that crime. That is why I continue to state that almost 100% of murders committed by firearms have been by illegal firearms. When we talk in nonsense by politicians, too many firearms were given out by civilians. Not one weapon was ever used legally by what I issued in a murder based on somebody trying to hide it. So that is the issue here. So the weapon was never used, planned to be brought in. When people speak about assassination attempts and terrorists and all of that, that is not true. They spoke about the attorney that was killed recently. That person was a close friend of the same Roger Best. The man, there were 30 shots, and those were by automatic weapons. Long started saying it was used by the same sniper rifle. You're not going to take 30 rounds to kill someone in cold blood in the middle of the street in Woodbrook by using a sniper rifle. Those were automatic. That was an automatic illegal weapon. So that is just to clarify the situation. The SSA there's nothing illegal by them purchasing the weapons. It is similar to persons who own a supermarket having weapons for their supermarket security. That can be done under FUEC through the FUL by the person who is in charge of the SSA. That is not a crime.
Okay, Captain Griffith. So in your opinion, given the whole debacle with the TTPS, we saw that the former Commissioner of Police, she's requesting her job back. Do you think that she should be reinstated as the Commissioner of Police?
Unfortunately, I think what has happened to her, grave injustice. It is totally unfortunate. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy, and she's definitely not my worst enemy. I would always be willing to support any politician, any government, any national security minister, any commissioner of police, regardless of who you are. However, in this situation, I don't think that her attorney has any substance to justify her return, and I'll tell you why. Even though the DPP chased the police and told them, get away from here with that nonsense, what the police are claiming is that the matter is still being investigated. If a matter is still being investigated, then they would have written to the Police Service Commission to tell the Police Service Commission that. And again, as I said, that is the role and function of sometimes junior officers, try to see if you can lick up your senior officer to get their job. And if that is the case, the matter is still undergoing investigation. It means that the Police Service Commission, by right, have the authority to ask her to remain on administrative leave for her own benefit, because this could assist her that if and when she's cleared, nobody could state, well, you were in chair when you were being investigated, so you influenced the outcome of the investigation. That is why it is to her benefit that she should not reinstate herself until the matter is closed. The unfortunate thing to that, knowing the speed of the legal department of the police service, they have two speeds, they're slow and stop. That investigation will go on for another few years to avoid the embarrassment of them admitting they made a mess of it. So Ola Christopher will never see that chair again. But it is going to be difficult to justify it if the matter is still being investigated. Like from my example, when I was commissioner, they sent a letter and I said, well, wait a minute. I am asking me if I could go on administrative leave. I said, but I am not a person of interest. I am not a suspect. I am not being questioned. I have nothing to do with this. They have over 200 police officers are charged on an annual basis or suspended or disciplined. That has nothing to do with the commissioner unless the commissioner is directly involved. And then they realize they made the mistake and they pull that letter back. But if it is that a commissioner is being investigated, which I never was, but she is presently being investigated still, it may be appropriate for the Police Service Commission to ask her to go on administrative leave until the investigation is completed.
Captain Griffith, you in one of your videos that you posted online, you noted that there's a lot of infighting within the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, and that a lot of these investigations being run by the Professional Standards Bureau is just a sort of an infighting game. What are your suggestions to really resolve the problem with the infighting within the TTPS?
Yeah, it is rather simple. This has been going on for too long. We have been smearing people's names. There was a man who was an ACP. He actually went and investigated a minister without my knowledge, and then said, I don't have to tell you. That's the type of arrogance you have of some people in the police service. This is the commissioner of police not knowing. Then you had the same individual going on a fishing expedition to try to remove a DCP. This same individual wrote a report that was a lie about another individual who was supposed to be a DCP, and he did not get the position because the politicians read this report and figured, no, this can't be good. And it has gone on and on. We have seen but myself with all the lies with the Stanley John report and all of that, and notice after 3 years, not one person has been questioned, arrested, or charged based on all of these reports of this massive, well-oiled criminal industry. But that was done not based, it wasn't Stanley John's fault. This was based on police officers below who had a problem that I stopped $100 million overtime corruption. I stopped the problems with police officers bribing persons in police stations for firearms, or police officers controlling drug blocks, and I had them removed, or police officers in the Southwest Peninsula assisting in illegal drugs entering the country, and they're turning a blind eye and did not want to be polygraphed. So that has always been the problem. The junior person has some avenue to see if they could bust the person's throat above to get their job. We are not as mature as North America and Europe, where we have that equivalent to the internal affairs, where you could have that unit within the police service that is just there specifically to look after rogue elements in the police service. The PSP has been the catalyst for all of that. The best investigation police can do is to investigate police, because they want to find a way to bust the man through to get his job. We need to move that away from the police service, put it under the PCA, for example, change the name of Police Complaints Authority to the Professional Standards Bureau, or whatever, or the Internal Affairs Unit for the police service. Make the director of the PCA probably an ACP, give him an SRP rank, let him select 10 or 12 police officers and let them be totally responsible for investigating from commissioner to constable. And it means that no police officer has any influence in that department. Once you have this, it can always cause a deputy commissioner of police who wants the job of commissioner to influence an investigation. Again, as I said with myself, 80 police officers were assigned, 80 police officers to go on a fishing expedition with 500,000 police officers. Another DCP put 35 police officers to investigate a fellow person who actually became DCP with him. And 35 police officers based on an investigation. It's usually one police officer that investigates 10 murders. So you're speaking about what one DCP put to go after one officer. It was equivalent to 350 murder investigations. That is how bad it is. They go out of their way and they pump as much resources as they could to see what you could find on the other officer. We have to move the PSB. It should be shut down, and because this will continue. And sometimes politicians benefit from this because they want a certain officer to be there instead of another. Move it away from the PSB, put it under the PCA, and let the PCA be totally responsible for the internal affairs and investigations of police officers.
Mr. Griffith, of course, it's always a pleasure having conversations with you as you enlighten our viewers on the matters concerning the TTPS and security, national security here in Trinidad and Tobago. We really do appreciate your opinions. We appreciate your views and, of course, your recommendations as well. So thank you so much for joining us this morning. We just have to wait to see what happens on Wednesday when DCP Benjamin is given the role of acting commissioner of police, and how do we move forward from here, because there are still a lot of questions that are unanswered. As we discussed this morning, we still do not know what the cause for the arrest and detention was about, because, as you said, those rifles are not prohibited. So maybe there is more in the mortar than the pestle, and we do hope we can get those answers very, very soon to restore public trust in the TTPS. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been speaking with Mr. Gary Griffith,